Hello, my name is Jeff Gemiolo, and today I'm going to talk about feelings and emotions. Coping with them, processing them. Well, what are feelings? What are emotions? It's a pretty nebulous topic. Could be anything from anger. The only real good definition is actually it's the opposite of logic and reason. But emotions are why we're here on this planet to start with. Um, if you believe in aliens, if you believe in the spirit realms, there really is no emotion there. There's not. It's more heavy, very heavy logic and reason. There's no real emotions there. From the alien side of the fence, they kind of bred that out that they don't want any emotions, usually to their detriment, actually. But like most things that happen in the schoolhouse, we have emotions, and a lot of different souls of different types, not necessarily all human, come to Earth to experience it here, to experience emotions. So it's one of the only, I wouldn't say safe places, but it's one of the only places where the schoolhouse where you can experience them. Not all of them are good or not all of them are bad. It's just, I believe that none of us are actually taught how to, when we're young, how to actually process them. And that's usually our problem. So you got some people who have, no regulator at all, and they're basically blasting their emotions everywhere, like for the world to see. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm rotten, I'm good, I'm happy. It's just there's no regulation at all. There's some people that, when they were young, they were told, "Oh, don't act that way," and basically they kind of suppress it all and they internalize it. That's not good for you either. That causes medical problems, if not mental problems, with your mental health. Some people externalize all of it, and basically they take all those emotions out of there, and then they develop other things like eating disorders and everything. There's a lot of stuff tied to emotions. Um, there's other people who have the ability to, say, delay emotions. Up until about 5 years ago, I had delayed emotions, which means from the time when I was supposed to feel the emotions, a certain period of time would go by. Whether it be a family member passed away, like my mother passed away, it took me about 10 years before I even started grieving it. The logic is a soldier. There's a time to grieve, and it's not now. There's a mission right now. When the mission is over, that's when you worry about things. No difference here. It's just delayed when you have it. But eventually, you do have to express them. If you keep bottled up, bad stuff happens. But that's actually a characteristic of leadership, is that you have the inherent ability to delay your emotions. That's why I was surprised 5 years ago when all of a sudden I started to get crazy, crazy emotions all of a sudden. Not crazy as in I am crazy, but crazy as in the amount of emotions. I'm like, okay, what's the sudden desire universe for me to have all these emotions all of a sudden? Why should I care about a cat that passed away 25 years ago? As I said, it's just get rid of it. But it was also part of the process of learning to resettle back into your inner child, which does get hurt sometimes and has to basically show emotions. So I guess myself, even I, internalized it a little too much and had to get rid of some of it. So I said, I'm just as guilty myself. I go, but delaying your emotions actually is a very viable tool. In the military realms, roughly if you lose 30% of your unit, it's considered broken and combat ineffective. I was in the Marines, so you hear the stories about one man in a machine gun taking out 600-700 people. Yeah, those may be myths, but those are actually a lot of truth to a lot of those. But you also got to look at it and say, well, when your life's on the line and there is no such thing as surrender, because they're just going to kill you. You or them, you kind of do different things when your surrender is off the table. or giving up is off the table. Besides all that, what I was getting at with the brokenness of a unit is that you suffer so much damage. You get when your unit suffers so much damage, you actually have you're considered combat ineffective because you are taking care of casualties, and you're actually losing functionality pieces. In the Marines, we actually don't go by that number. Ours is actually roughly about 40%. Rumor has it. And the reason is because we are also cross-trained other people's jobs. So it's like, we need 5 radio operators, so whatever, or 5 of this, 5 of that. Usually have people that are trained on both. So they can kind of do it, but not very well. But either way, I didn't want this to be a digression about that. It's actually about emotions. And in the emotion world, it is very good sometimes it's good to delay emotions because it stops the initial reaction of, oh no, we're all going to die. It's like, no, maybe not. There's always one thing you can do, That's kind of the mental logic, and that's the way of the warrior. It's, hey, there's always something we can do. It's a fighter. You're a fighter if you could do that. Now, as far as emotions go, generally, wherever you show interest in it, you get more of it. Generally, people are kind of balanced in the light and the dark, or in the happy, sad, happy, mad. Pick a spectrum you want. You can't be happy all the time. You can't be sad all the time. If you are, that's the balance you need to help fix. When I was younger, my teenage years, I was quite a jokester, telling jokes all the time. I was actually quite humorous. And then I went in the military and it kind of fixed all of it. Not a sense of humor to save your life. Call it seeing too much, calling it, this was just not fun. It just, you could say it sucked the inner child right out of me. It could be. But we're back to the more you show interest in something, the better off, the more you get of it, actually. And it involves energy, it involves people, it involves everything, but it also involves your emotions. So the more comedies you watch, the happier you will be. So be careful what you watch. Be careful of the content you're consuming. Are you watching horror movies? Well, no shock you're going to be scared. Or you're going to turn to a deviant eventually because you're figuring it out in your head how to do that. Drama's the same way. I avoid drama. If you believe in aliens, what's really hysterically fun is that there's an alien race out there. I think it's the Draconians, who actually live off of fear and death, actually. The feelings and emotions of that, they live off of it. It's called Loosh. You want to look that up. It's interesting. If you're interested now. And hence the reason why they keep causing wars and causing strife, because they kind of like that because it keeps them alive. But you could say it's also a byproduct of the devil too, depending on how you look at that. But there's other species that live off of that type of energy. What I want to talk about at this moment is how I process my emotions throughout my life. I found some methods to help work through feelings and emotions. My goal in life has always been to have less emotion, more logic and reason. To me, it's more stable that way. I've seen people that blah, 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 just go insane with their emotions. I'm not going to say it politely. The elites of the world who want everyone dead talk about useless eaters. If I had to go over and label a group, if you put a gun to my head and wanted me to label a group, I would call the people who just spew out emotions, blasting it everywhere, useless eaters, because they actually cause nothing but trouble across the board. It's pure drama. And they don't help resolve it or anything. So, if it was a trait I can get rid of, is the blasters, I would. The blasting of emotions everywhere. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have emotions. I'm not saying you shouldn't have too much emotions. I go, just be careful, because when you have too much emotions, there's nothing getting done. So, I don't know of any real occupation that is just pure emotions, because there's actually no money in emotions. As much as you look at acting and various other things, there's not as much as you would think in emotions. Because if you're pure emotions, there's no command in that. There's no discipline, which discipline does not get along well with emotions. Anyway, how I would, over my life, I would deal with them is in various ways. Usually, I would time limit them. You broke up with your girlfriend, you lost your job. You give yourself a certain amount of time. You're going to feel bad. You're going to feel bad. Okay? But you give yourself, 3 days. Maybe 3 days. 3 days per year you were together. Maybe. Or a day per year. Whatever you want to work it out. Whatever you think, you should you should do. And when you start getting past that, you spent 10 years, 10 days. Okay, now the next step you usually take after that is, well, if I'm still whining about it at this point, I'm still crying about it, I need to use a different mechanism, because time limiting is not going to work at this point. Because if you're still heavily on it, I go with the other approach of diverting all that energy into your passion. Whether it be painting, sculpting, whatever. In my case, it was software development. I put my head down and just let me do something different that I wanted to do. Nothing that's important, a home type of project for myself. And I would blow through that in like 4 or 5 days. And I'd find that all those emotions are gone, because I transferred and transmuted all that energy from the negative that was bothering me to something creative. And I find a lot of times anything creative will do that for you. The other thing I also have done before is, especially during time limiting of it, you could actually go over and do therapy by puzzles. You say, well, when I'm done with this puzzle, I'm done. And at this point, you sit there and you start working on a puzzle. 100 piece, 200 piece, 1,000 piece. And you get a sense, as you're moving through, you get a sense of accomplishment, and you're transferring that Sorry about that. She was very, very distracting. She decided to wake up after a nap. But back to the puzzles. Puzzles are another time-limiting way of limiting it, of when you process things. There's 2 ways you can do it. If you say you're giving up alcohol, okay, you technically, and you want to keep the puzzle, you can actually go get one that has, resemblance of that change in you, that you're quitting alcohol, or it's about alcohol. And as you're building the puzzle, you literally go over and say to yourself, hey, I will no longer drink this way again. And basically just, you can also use a puzzle in a way that whenever you would normally drink, instead you sit down and you have to work on the puzzle. When your puzzle's done, usually you can get puzzle glue, oddly enough, put some glue on there, and it'll actually harden up, and then you can put it in a frame and put it on a wall. So you can look at it and say, I did that, and I quit drinking. Now, you could also go over and do that for every one of your vices you want to get rid of, and then have a whole wall full of them. And it's kind of almost like you're bragging, but it's also an accomplishment for you. Because at this point, it's like, I did this. I like the puzzle idea, but at the same time, as when I moved into my original apartment, I lacked artistic skills, so I went and did puzzles to paint a wall. So get pictures of birds, pictures of whatever. I did that to occupy time. So I was waiting. When you have 3 months to wait for your apartment to open up, what am I going to do other than cause trouble? Oh, I think I'll make puzzles and more puzzles. So I had close to like almost 150 puzzles that I put together. Usually they were in groups of four of the same theme, so that if I decided in this room I want to make a change to the pictures there, I can just take these 4 and change a room. So one can be Christmas, one can be Easter, one can be whatever you want to do. Food for thought. What I've always lived by in this world, because I have a hard time with other people's emotions myself. How do I deal with them? I said people that are erratic. What I've learned about people is the golden rule: treat others like you'd want to be treated. Even in the days when I used to work with Microsoft and sold software for Microsoft and replacement parts for software, all that stuff, I've always believed in treat others like you want to be treated. So when I literally would take a call and I would get them off the phone, if they're not supposed to be talking to me, I get them off the phone in 15 seconds. I don't want to talk to you. If I'm supposed to be talking to you, okay, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. My call times are very small. The only times my call times were crazy big is when I was talking to a developer, because I'm a developer. So it's very odd to actually have a developer talk to another developer, and both sides enjoy that. So we kind of talk a lot more than you do, but you also upsell quite a bit, because you're not just blindly spitting out whatever it says on a piece of paper. You already used the product, and you can usually debate it. So you kind of can talk them into it because you know more than they do. Usually my call quality scores were always very good for that. As a matter of fact, I remember right when I used to do Borland calls, they would kind of kick me off the phone because they're sick of hearing me, because I used to take the developer calls. So they would get someone else so they can call quality someone else, and they never liked anyone else really. So anyway, just letting you know that it's always very good to treat others like you'd want to be treated, especially with emotions. A hug goes a long way, it's as long as you're not contagious, but a hug goes a long way. And you do try to stay away from people who are having issues, as far as if you think they're going through mental problems, they may want to seek medical advice. If they're going through karma, because a lot of people will go through karma, and if you interfere or near them, you will actually get it too, and you don't want any of their karma. It's theirs to live with. Let them live with it for a little while. But all in all, this is about how you deal with your feelings. So that's what I've generally done to help with my feelings. I have drank before, and I find it doesn't work. I found addictions generally don't work. If I have an addiction that's addicted to computers, I just jump back on the computer and start, let me build something now. Convert this to something creative. And that's worked very well for me. I was just lucky enough that computer software was actually my occupation. So indirectly, I'm actually helping my own future. Nowadays, I may want to do something different, like painting, and which would mean it's a totally new occupation at that point. But it also means it's a lot more to learn. There's a lot of mistakes can be made. A lot of good and a lot of mistakes. I go, but that's why we're here, to learn. So that's what I have for you on feelings and emotions. Happy you have a great day.